Well, welcome to today. I'm a very sort of organic kind of a guy. Like, I don't have any set slides. I know what we're going to do, but I don't know what we're going to do. It depends on what you want to do. We're going to be focusing on, of course, emotional fitness. That's the centerpiece of what we're going to be focusing on. But this can take us anywhere. So one thing that I have found in life, or by the way, when you think emotional fitness, those two words, just yell out, if you could, what do you think of when you think of the words emotional fitness? What? Maturity? Emotional intelligence? Resilience?
Focus.
It's what?
Focus.
Focus. I thought you said strong kiss. Focus. I thought, that's interesting, sir. Tell me more about that. Yes, focus. Anything else? Coping?
Self-love.
Self-love. Love that. So in the back? Grit. Love that. Grit is a good word. I like that. So what we're going to be, and as emotional fitness is all those things that you just shared. My personal definition of the work that I've been doing for the last many years. Oh, and welcome to all the Zoom friends. Hello, can we give them another hand? Welcome, welcome. I'm assuming you can see us and hear us well. So emotional fitness is measured, if you want to write this down, is measured by the quality of our relationship with uncertainty. That's the essence of it. It's measured by the quality of our relationship with uncertainty. I believe that our relationship with uncertainty is perhaps the most important relationship that we could possibly have. And for anyone who's been in business for a while, who's had some challenges the last few years? Bit of a dumb question, isn't it? So, uncertainty, I've learned about uncertainty in so many different ways. I remember when I first started my business back in 2006, and I had been an employee all of my life. I'd worked as a rehab counsellor at Ford Motor Company, used to just getting a salary on the 13th of every month and all that kind of thing, and couldn't stand the job I had there because it was really political and serving multiple agendas, and it didn't have a meaning to me. So I left that, didn't know what to do after finishing my psychology and sociology degree. I then went into real estate sales, and because I didn't know what else to do at that moment. And let me tell you, I was just saying to, I think it was, I can't remember who I was saying this to. The guy in the car, the Uber dude, because he used to work in sales. I said, and he was talking about, what are you doing today? I said, I'm talking at this thing. And, right. And what's it about? I said, emotional fitness, sometimes what happens is when I come to an event, I just want to be quiet because I know I'm going to be talking all day. And a lovely guy, he's asking me all these questions, but it's like, can you just leave me alone? I just want to sit and just stare at the tree, until I get to the event. And he was saying, I used to work in sales. And I said, the most phenomenal training in psychology you could possibly have is working in sales. And I remember back in 1998, the first 15 months of my career in real estate was all about door knocking, cold calling, building a database, getting rejected many, many times, like on average once every 27 minutes. And it was really challenging, and I didn't know what that entailed until I just began that. So it just forces you to grow on your feet and think on your feet and embrace the uncertainty. And then that career went for about 7 years, and that was all fine and well. And then I left that, went on a sabbatical. I won't bore you with all the details there because I think I shared that in the last chat that I had with you here back in August. But when I started my own business in 2006, that was the biggest uncertainty because I didn't know where the next chunk of income was coming from. And unfortunately, most people correlate uncertainty with fear. And when we correlate uncertainty with fear, it doesn't help us grow. Because one of the perpetual needs of the human spirit, I've started to spit already, but I'm a good distance away from everyone today, so that's all good, is one of the perpetual needs of the human spirit is growth. And one of the precursors to growth is uncertainty. So today, we're going to be exploring deeply in many different areas of life, how we relate to uncertainty, to improve our relationship with uncertainty. Emotional fitness is also how we relate to our thoughts. How we relate to our thoughts. There's something I want to share with you here, and I'll just let it sort of simmer in the air and we'll talk more about it as the day continues. But something that you may want to consider, something that you may even want to write down, is that thoughts are something that we have. They're not who we are. Thoughts are something that we have. It's not who we are. So we're going to explore what that means today. We're also going to be navigating through different parts of life because I believe that, well, personally, my experience of life is that if you have a happy personal life or work toward having a fulfilling personal life that's fulfilling and meaningful and happy and purpose-driven, it makes business so much easier. It makes business so much easier. Who agrees with that, by the way? Just give me a bit of a wave. Yeah, so we're going to talk about relationships if you want to. If you want me to stay away from relationships, I can. But I've been married for 26 years and I've learnt a lot. And at the risk of sounding however this sounds, the last 5 or 6 years of our marriage has been the best it's ever been for many reasons. So the reason why I'm sharing that with you is because there's uncertainty in marriage as well. There's uncertainty in the raising of children. We've got 14-year-old twin boys. There's uncertainty around that. There's always challenge and uncertainty. And the irony is that the more healthy our relationship is with uncertainty, the more we will grow. And as we know from nature, everything's either green and growing or ripe and rotting. And that's the same with our skill sets. It's the same with any market. It's the same with any business. It's the same with any relationship. It's the same with anything. Everything's either expanding or shrinking, growing or dying. So today, what I want to do is, I'll tell you what I don't want to do today, right? What I don't want to do is leave you with fascinating theories that can't be translated into life. I want to introduce you to some frameworks that are implementable, that you can implement straight away in your life, that you can replicate and share with others. Because I think there's nothing more special than sharing what you might be learning here today with your children, if you have children, or with your team, or with the people that you care about, and all that kind of thing. I think that's really, really important. Are you okay if today we have a bit of fun? I'm just like, there's so many people that suffer from terminal seriousness. Yes? I've got a slang definition of emotional fitness. Actually, I haven't written this. I should add this to my stuff. My slang definition of emotional fitness is that we all need to get over ourselves. What do you think? And it's a journey. It's a journey. Like, if you think, I've done that, I've gotten over myself, you never arrive, you never land. The journey of getting over oneself, you never get to a point where you say, I'm there. I'm now over myself. Because if you get to that point, you allow your ego to do that, you've just graduated from wanker to super wanker. Can you turn to the person next to you and say, don't be a super wanker? And can you turn to your other neighbour and say, we've got to get over ourselves? Go on. So I hope people on Zoom have got someone to talk to at home that you can say things to. It's really, really important that, because laughter, write this down if you like, laughter is the shortest distance between you and your clients, between you and your team, between you and your son, between you and your daughter. My wife said to me so many years ago, I remember this, and I remember feeling the pressure of this. She said, the day that you stop making me laugh is the day that it's over. I thought, that's a bit extreme. That's extreme. But she's right. Good thing is she's easy to make laugh. But if you think about this, guys, the people that you're closest to, you laugh with the most. And the people that you are most distant from, you laugh with the least. Does that make sense? So also laughing at oneself, not in a detrimental way, not in a beating up kind of a way, in a very healthy way. Who's ever had some really weird-ass thoughts go through their heads and you think, where did that come from? Who's ever had that? Oh, come on, everyone put their hands up. You've all had strange thoughts. Well, whatever those strange thoughts are, we've got to laugh at ourselves. We've just got to giggle. Life's too short. I was listening to some of the, what's the word? When people, Olivia Newton-John, they had the state memorial, thank you. And they had all the, when people say, what's the eulogy, they had people saying all these things. I was saying to Sylv's my wife, I was saying to Sylv the other day, we must be getting older, well, we're both 52, we must be getting older because there's so many people I know who are passing, like famous people. Like the conveyor belt's coming to an end here, like George Michael's not here, Michael Jackson's not here, Prince is not here, and on we go with all Robert Palmer, who I didn't even know had passed away. I mean, I can't even keep up. And it's a reminder that life's too short. It's too short to get caught up in egotistical seriousness of things. Now, this doesn't take anything away from the realities of what we face every day. But why can't we face what we have every day in a way that is, that is light, where we can start becoming observers of ourselves. And I don't know about you, but I find to myself, most of the time, I'm the most ridiculous person that ever existed. And I don't mean that in a low self-esteem way and all that kind of thing. That's not what I mean. I mean, it's just the thoughts that go on. I shared at the last conference here in August that in the field of ego state therapy, they say there are up to 15 different voices that exist in a fully functioning human being. And I shared with you back in August that when I read that, I was so relieved. Who here has got multiple voices? Turn to the person next to you and say, I can hear your voices. Come on, just say it to them. If we can't turn to the person next to us and say something silly where the ego's got hold of us. Ego is an interesting thing. We'll talk a little bit about ego today. Fundamentally, our ego is a survival mechanism as far as like the psychological definition. It's a survival mechanism. It's designed to protect us. It's designed to keep us away from real, and I stress the word real, danger. So back in the day when we had to run away from the saber-toothed tiger, the ego was constructed so it would notice contrast. So it could notice contrast. So if there's long grass and the long grass is now contrasting, it's going flat, we know that there's some kind of animal in there that might be walking, treading toward us. So it's a notice of a threat, and then we can move away because the ego is designed to help us move away from real physical danger. The problem is these days we don't have physical dangers to run away from anymore. All the dangers are all made up in our heads. And here's the thing. Please write this down. All we have is our mind. That's all we have. That's all we have. And perception is all we have. Perception is another word for mind. Another word for mind is ego. Ego's, like the Skyhooks used to say, it's not a dirty word. As I said, we'll talk more about that soon. But mind is all we have. Our thoughts is all we have. If you think about it, experience in life, experience in business, experience in anything. Life is a continual series of experiences. It's a continual series of experiences that continually changes. And what amplifies those experiences, what do you reckon amplifies our experiences or minimizes those experiences? What do you think it is? Starts with R. Our reaction? Good guess, but no. Relationships. Who said that? Thank you, sir. What's your name? Thanks, Terry. Our relationships amplify or minimize our experiences. The quality of our lives is absolutely determined by the quality of our experiences. The quality of our experiences is amplified or minimized by the quality of our relationships. Imagine, who's ever gone to the movies on their own? Anyone gone to the movies on their own? Oh, I'm not alone. That's so good. No pun intended. But yeah, I love that. But you go to the movie, you go and see a movie on your own, you have a good experience because you want to see that movie. Now compare that, seeing a movie with a friend who's got similar taste in a movie, it amplifies the experience because afterwards you get to talk about it and chat about it and giggle about it and say silly things about it or whatever. It amplifies the experience. So who here has got, when I say married, like not necessarily literally married, but who's got a long-term love partner, if you know what I'm trying to say? Who's in a partnership? Wow, most of the people in the room. Cool. Love it. I think we're going to talk about, I want to explore that today. What do you reckon? Yes, no? Yes. Who would like to explore relationships? Yes. Can I have a loud yes? Yes. And who would not like to explore relationships? Anyone? No. The reason why I'm talking about that is because I think that what is going on at home, like I often think to myself, if my wife if there's something going on at home that's not great, it has a ripple effect on everything else. And the framework, we're going to look at a framework up here on the flip chart in the next little bit in this session. And we're going to relate this framework to teamwork, to leadership. We're going to translate it into personal relationship. We're going to translate it into relationship with self. And we're going to also translate it into the relationship of love in terms of how we relate to our sons, our daughters, our husbands, our wives, our girlfriends, our boyfriends, our partners. And because emotional fitness is not something that's just for this kind of person in this kind of situation. It's for everyone. Emotional fitness, if you want to write this down, is also measured by the quality of our relationship with our thoughts. The quality of our relationship with our thoughts. Thoughts are an interesting thing. Thoughts, I said a few minutes ago that thoughts are something that we have. They're not what we are or who we are. Now, what's fascinating about that is that if I can give you the metaphor to demonstrate what I mean by that, let's metaphorically look at a radio station, or let's look at a radio. Just pretend for a moment that we've actually got a physical radio here on this pretend table, like an actual radio with a dial and everything. Who remembers those radios? Can you just give me a bit of a... Yeah. There's a bit of an older audience today. It's lovely. I love it. So, a bit of the old radio. Now, the radio does not produce the music. It tunes into the music. So, the scientists say that everything in the universe is energy. Everything is energy. And energy is always moving. And it's always transforming from one form to another. It can't be killed. It's always transforming. And the energy movement, scientists call, when it moves, they call that, that's the vibration of the energy. And how fast it's vibrating, science refers to it as a frequency. And when one frequency matches another, you have a connection. And everything is frequency. When you're angry, that produces a certain frequency. When you're joyous, that produces a certain frequency. The reason why I'm making the stations up because I'm in Sydney and I don't know what the stations here are, but let's just pretend that 104.3 FM is Gold FM. So it's the frequency matches the frequency of whatever the music is that's got to tune into to produce the experience of the music. The radio is not the owner or creator or identity of the music. It is simply a, what's the word? Channel. It's a vessel. It's a media something. A medium. It's a medium. Our brains are like a radio station. It's more complex. But our brains are tuning into frequencies of thought. And the ego likes to claim authorship of those thoughts. The ego likes to say, that's my thought. It's an original thought. There's no such thing as an original thought. It's like the radio saying, I am the original player of Beatles music. No, you're not. You're a channel of it. Now, I printed something for you this morning. And I'm thinking, I hope the writing's big enough. So I've got to read this because this guy is one of my heroes. So Silvana saw this, forget that. This is my notes for the whole day, see? Like that. So Silvana said, you sure that's big enough? I said, yeah. At the moment that gets beyond my arm length, I'll stop being in denial. It's fine. All my friends got reading glasses. I'm the only one that doesn't because I can still see, think. But I just want to read this out to you. I'm going to read it out more than once because it takes a while for this to just... And then I want to get into some frameworks here. So this is from Dr. David R. Hawkins. Dr. David R. Hawkins is no longer with us, but he wrote a book back in 1995 called Power versus Force. He's also written heaps of other books later on after that weren't commercially exposed. They were to do with altered states of consciousness, enlightenment, the whole spiritual sort of world. But he says in one of his books here, and I love this, he says, one is not ruled by the mind at all. What the mind reveals is an endless stream of options, all disguised as memories, fantasies, fears, and concepts. To get free of the domination of the mind, it is only necessary to realize that its parade of subjects is merely an arbitrary cafeteria of selection. How good is that language? Imagine talking to someone, at the moment I have an arbitrary cafeteria of selection and I'm determining how I feel about you based on my selection of my menu. Joe, focus on the bloody thing that it says here, will you? I'll read that little paragraph again. To get free of the domination of the mind, it is only necessary to realize that its parade of subjects is merely an arbitrary cafeteria of selection winding their way across the screen of the mind. One is not forced to feel resentment by a negative memory. Nor does one need to buy into a fearful thought about the future. These are only options. It's a choice. This is a moment where I'm getting more excited than my audience. Are you digging this? I'm not all alone here, right? You're digging this? Turn to the person next to you and go, diggity, diggity, baby. Did you all do that? Yeah, because remember, it's a journey of getting over yourself. And you never get there. Otherwise, you become a super wanker. We don't want that. The mind, oh, look at this. This is just beautiful. The mind is like a television set, running its various channels for selection. Just like The radio, you tune into 104 FM playing whatever gold music is. We've consciously chosen to tune into that station. And there's a critical thinking principle that says what you focus on is what you get, to the exclusion of everything else. And that philosophy continues to say what you stop focusing on ceases to exist in your experience. So when we're in a space of stress, pressure, challenge, someone's annoyed us, oh my God, this client's let us down, and stuff's happening. In that moment is a micro moment of choice of what you want to make it mean. We'll talk more about that in a sec. So we can change the dial. Oh, but aren't we denying reality? No, it's like saying, I'm tuning in to Talkback Radio now because I just want to get into the gossip, and I'm deleting the experience of everything else. We can't tune into more than one radio station at a time, and we can't tune into more than one. Hey, Nick, how are you? I love you. Well, sorry, now I've said hello to you, and I've got to say hello to Nat. Hey, Nat. What was that? And there's other people going, well, what about me? It's like, I shouldn't have done that. So you can only tune into one radio station at a time. You can only tune into one thought at a time, one emotion at a time. So he goes on to say here, the mind is like a television set, running its various channels for selection. One does not have to follow any particular temptation of thought. One can fall into the temptation, look at this, one can fall into the temptation of feeling sorry for oneself or angry or worried. The secret, this is the best part. You reckon that was good? Look. The secret attraction of all these options is that they offer an inner payoff or a secret satisfaction, which is the source of the attraction of the mind's thoughts. Okay, this is a Shiraz drinking moment, baby. We have to repeat that. Let me just say that again. The secret attraction of all of these options, which is what thoughts you want to... So you want to start feeling like a victim? Most people who are victims, I'm saying this very carefully, but in my experience of the last 17 years of being in this space, anyone who experiences victimhood, most of the time is a victim of their own thinking. Not because of because of what someone else has done, sure. And that's where I've got to be really respectful of that. And I'll talk more about these sort of situations during the day where something may have happened and how do we deal with that, if it's appropriate, if you want me to explore that. But a lot of people are victims of their own mind because they don't realize that these words even exist in this order. So one can fall into the temptation of feeling sorry for oneself or angry or worried. The secret attraction of all of these options is that they offer an inner payoff or a secret satisfaction, which is the source of the attraction of the mind's thoughts. If these payoffs are refused, it will be discovered that at all times behind the thought screen, there is a silent, invisible, thought-free space of joy. This is an option that is always available. But to be experienced, it has to be chosen above all other tempting options. The source of the joy is always present, always available, and not determined by circumstances external to us. Do you love that? Who loves that? You've all gone quiet. What have I just done? You're thinking? Do you want me to read it again? I'm going to read it one more time. I'm going to go right through without any commentary. One is not ruled by the mind at all. What the mind reveals is an endless stream of options, all disguised as memories, fantasies, fears, and concepts. To get free of the domination of the mind, it is only necessary to realize that its parade of subjects is merely an arbitrary cafeteria of selections, winding their way across the screen of the mind. One is not forced to feel resentment by negative memory, nor does one need to buy into a fearful thought about the future. These are only options. The mind is like a television set, running its various channels for selection. One does not have to follow any particular temptation of thought. One can fall into the temptation of feeling sorry for oneself or angry or worried, but the secret attraction of all these options is that they offer an inner payoff or a secret satisfaction, which is the source of the attraction of the mind's thoughts. If these payoffs are refused, it will be discovered that at all times behind the thought screen there is a silent, invisible, thought-free space of joy. This is an option that is always available, but to be experienced it has to be chosen above all other tempting options. The source of the joy is always present, always available, and not determined by circumstances external to us. That's so powerful. Who agrees that that's powerful? Give me a bit of a wave. So the ego, in coaching we call it secondary gain. The ego has lots of secondary gain. What's the payoff? What's the, it's like if I just all lean, just if you can, just lean in for me, just lean in. Have you heard the rumor about, I've got nothing to say, but could you feel the energy of like, the ego wants to know what's the gossip? What's the water cooler talk? What's going on? What's happening over there? It's always attracted to all of that. And we've got a choice with all thoughts and all emotion because they literally come like a wave. And we've got a choice at the beginning of the wave whether you want to go down that path or not. Yesterday was a really weird experience in the supermarket last night because I'm staying in a fully, an apartment with a kitchen. And I went to Coles last night to get some stuff so I could make breakfast this morning and And it was uncanny how everywhere that I went in Coles, there'd be someone, like it was at 8 o'clock, it wasn't busy, but everywhere that I went, there were people standing in front of what I needed. It was really weird. And like I needed some olive oil, so there's a couple standing right in front of the, like not in front of the macadamia oil or this oil, right where I want to go, they're standing, so I had to wait. So it's all good, no problem, easy. So they moved, I got my olive oil. And then I went to get some eggs, right? And there were people standing in front of the organic egg section. It's like, this is weird. Everywhere I went. And then when I went to the counter, like there was a person that just snuck in front of me with a whole bunch of stuff. It's like, because I wanted to pay cash, not by card or whatever. So I noticed that the wavelength of frustration was beginning to build, and you catch it at the start. It's like, I've got a choice. I can choose to feel frustrated about this, or I can just go with the flow. It's all good. Because as someone said to me a long time ago, whatever you can control, you don't need to worry about. And whatever you can't control, you don't need to worry about. Do you get what I'm saying? And it's fascinating because the world is continually giving us feedback on who we're being. It's that frequency stuff that the science talks about, the vibration, the frequency. It's what science says. Who's ever been in a hurry in traffic, and this is the day when the semi-trailer that doesn't need to be on that road is on that road, and they're broken down, and there's this going on, that going. Who's ever had that experience of being and stuff just happens that shouldn't be happening? Oh, come on, have we all had that experience? Do you know that that's the universe, call it whatever you want, giving you feedback on the frequency of what you're being? Because if I'm being hurry, I'm going to attract the experience of being stuck in that hurry situation. You can perform thought experiments with all this stuff. Next time you're in a traffic situation and you're in a hurry, change the way you feel about it and watch what happens. Like I remember being stuck in Kingsway in Melbourne, late for a training, people waiting in a room. It's like, oh my God. And then I was like, well, there's nothing I can do about this. This is what's going on. And I just chilled. I relaxed. I put some music on. And suddenly the semi-trailer just moved out of the way. I felt like Moses. Wow. This is amazing. Amazing. All right, so emotional fitness. So what we're going to be exploring today in all different perspectives and angles is how we can improve our relationship with uncertainty, how we can improve our relationship with our thoughts. So when challenges come, because uncertainty is inevitable. Ironically, uncertainty is something that we actually need in order to survive, and I'll show you what that means when we look at some stuff in a sec. So that's the nature of what we're going to be doing, and then we're going to go into whatever realm we want. The other thing also, guys, is I would love it if you want to ask me questions. Feel welcome to interrupt me and ask me to say something again, or ask me anything you like. It's all good. Yes, go for it.
What was the name of the quote? Who wrote that quote?
Dr. David R. Hawkins. Yeah, you're welcome. What's your name, sir?
Sean.
Thanks, Sean. Eye of the I. E-Y-E of the I, letter I. It's a book that'll depress out of your ego. When I read that book for the first time, I actually felt depressed reading it. Oh, why would you want to read that? Because it challenges the very essence of the structure of the ego. It's a whole other conversation. It's amazing. So, by changing our relationship with uncertainty, it changes our relationship with everything else. And also, let's begin with a mini framework, a micro framework, and we'll go into a more macro one. So this is where these are the chunks of frameworks that I want to share with you that are immediately implementable in your own life and immediately implementable into the lives of others. So did you know that, and this comes from the work of Lou Holtz, Holtz, who was a college football coach in the United States, I think back in the 70s, I might have the decade incorrect, but he was a legendary coach because he was able to take teams that were languishing in the bottom of the college, whatever they call the ladder there in the football. I'm using different language, but you know what I mean. They were languishing in the bottom of the league. And within 2 years, he would take these teams up to an opportunity to win the championship, maintaining 98% of the personnel. And there was lots of stuff that this guy did with mindset shifts that would make a massive difference. I mean, think about it. 98% of the team was the same. So what's changed? It's something in their mind. Because all we have is our mind. That's all we have. So what he said, what he shared in some of this is something I learned when I started my coaching business back in 2006, when a friend's father gave me a VHS videotape. Do you remember, who remembers the VHS videotapes? He gave me oh my God, a lot of you, wow, this is so good. A VHS videotape. You got a box of them? You still got a machine you can play them? Wow, I love the way you push the eject and it just goes, I love that. And this VHS videotape is worn out now. I can't see Lou Holtz on the tape anymore, but I've remembered. He said, there are 3 unconscious means out of our awareness, 3 unconscious questions. You look very familiar to me. Have we met before? No? Maybe last time. 3 unconscious questions that every single person is asking you. Every client is asking you, every team member is asking you, even they aren't even aware that they're asking you these 3 questions. Your ability to answer these 3 questions will make a massive difference to your results. It'll make a massive difference to your connection. It'll make a massive difference to the culture that you might be trying to build. It'll make a massive difference to your relationships. These 3 unconscious questions get answered in 2 ways. They get answered by people to you, and they get answered for you. The first question is this: can you be trusted? That's the first question people are wondering in their mind when they're dealing with a new person, a new business, a new product, a new service, a new relationship. Can you be trusted? I remember this clearly. I remember when I was 19, that was the first time I went into a relationship innocently, fully, giving myself completely. She was a lovely, I'm a 3rd generation Italian, so if I'm speaking about wogs, I'm qualified to use the word wog, just so I'm clear. I don't want any feedback on that. But I was going out with this Greek girl, and she was lovely. Her name, I can't say her name. What are you doing, Joe? So I was getting so into the conversation with you. I'm just chatting. Yeah, her name was this, and and I gave all of myself to her. I trusted completely. And then 3 months later, she dumped me. And I was 19. Now, a 3-month relationship when you're 19 is like a 5-year relationship when you're 40, right? It's like, wow, that's a long time, man. That's a long time. And so I was in tears. I was in foreign territory, completely immersed in uncertainty. I was just crying. Like, if Christina just looked at me like she's looking at me now, I'd just start crying. I just saw your name tag, just in case you thought that was weird that I knew your name. So I was crying for months, like not continually, but And then I go into a second relationship. And guess what? I answered that question, can you be trusted? The answer was no. Couldn't trust myself, I couldn't trust the next girl. So guess what I would do? I'd sabotage the relationship. I'd find an excuse, a reason to get out. And I would, and I'd feel good. Not really. And then I did that for the 2nd, 3rd, 4th time, until I met this other girl when I was 23 at a game of Boulder Dash. The game, Boulder Dash? The game that you play on the table and stuff. It's a real game. Anyway, okay, clearly I'm all alone with that one. But, and my mate said to me, my best mate, who's still my best mate today, he said to me, mate, don't bugger this one up. She's a good woman and you deserve better, she deserves better than what you've been doing. So, shape up, just grow up. It's like, wow, what a conversation. I said, what do you mean? I thought I was really grown up. No, you're not grown up. Look at all the trail of destruction you've left with these relationships. Like, really? And so I had to reconnect with trust again. So I had to answer that question to the positive rather than to the negative. Can you be trusted? Can I trust you? Can I trust the process? Can I trust myself? Everyone is asking you, Can you be trusted? Guess what the core ingredient of trust is? It starts with C. Certainty, good guess, but no. Communication, great guess, but no. Consistency, who said that? Yes, what's your name?
Bernadette.
Thanks, Bernadette. We've met before, haven't we? Thank God for that, okay. Consistency is at the core of trust. But let's not confuse consistency with perfection. I'm not talking about perfection. I'm talking about the consistency of your energy, consistency of the energy that you bring into a room, the consistency of your messaging, the consistency of your emotional range, the consistency of your, whatever level of intensity that you work at. There's a consistency there. Because when there's consistency, people can trust that. But if this was my business and you're all my team and I'm walking in, like you see, Jekyll, then you see Hyde, then you see some other character and I'm all over the place all the time, it's very difficult to trust. Does that make sense, guys? So, does it? Yeah, so consistency lies at the core. So can you be trusted is the first question that anyone is asking you. The second question is this: are you committed to excellence? Now, that's a very elegant way of saying, are you any good? Do you know what you're doing? They're asking you this all the time, whoever they are. So, can you be trusted? Are you committed to excellence? But it's the third question that Lou Holtz really amplified, the one that makes a massive difference. And that is, do you care about me? Not as an employee, not as a team member, not as a client, not even as a customer, but do you actually care about me as a person? As a person. As a person. We've got 2 weeks to go in our renovation at home. It's been a 1-year journey. We moved our family to Noosa from Melbourne back in November 2021. And it's been one heck of a ride. And we've met some wonderful people that you can tell have answered all that. We've answered, like when I think of the people that we're closest to, that we trust the most, can you be trusted? Yes. Are they committed to excellence? Are they committed? So write this down. Another way of saying are you committed to excellence is, are you committed to your craft? Like, wouldn't you hire someone who's committed to their craft rather than someone who's not? So the guys that we've learned to trust the most are the ones who've answered all these questions. Can you be trusted? And are you committed to excellence? And then we felt like they cared about us as people. Like a couple of the builders, we've dealt with a couple, there's one builder and then he's got a team. A couple of the team, they talk to us like they actually care about Silvana and I, and Oliver and Nicholas and my sons, and Oliver and Nicholas, like they actually care. It's obvious that people is ahead of process with them. But then we've got the lawnmower guy, right? Who's fine, he's a nice guy and all. But I remember when he came over, I said, thank you for coming. He goes, well, you're paying me, that's why I'm here. It's like, but that's not what I mean. Like that, sure, I'm paying you, sure, but thanks for coming. Because there's a golden ingredient that sits at the very core of every relationship. A golden ingredient. It also starts with C. Do you want to have a guess? A golden ingredient. Connection? Thanks for the effort, but no. Commitment? No. Care? No. Confidence? Is that what you said? No. But thank you, this is great. Keep going. Communication? No, but thank you. Compassion? Almost, not quite. Huh? But empathy doesn't start with C. That's okay. Sympathy? Sympathy? We could make that up. Concern? So many C words. This is if we go 3 more C words, this will be a record. Huh? Clarity, no, but we're getting to the record. Huh? Certainty, no. Consideration, oh, we're getting hot. Care? Consistency? Oh. Who said that? Oh, if I had chocolates, I'd throw them over to you right now. Guys, courtesy lies at the core. It's the golden ingredient of all relationships. So basic, isn't it? It's so basic. Courtesy. Courtesy, which is another word for respect, significance, being seen, being valued, humanity. And the people that we've got along with the most and most easiest in the renovation of our house are the people who show courtesy. And we don't. And by the way, you can't stand in front of a relationship and say, I will like I remember, oh my God, I remember when we last renovated back in 2012 in Melbourne, there was a fellow who was delivering our kitchen modules in the middle of the night because it was a late night for him. It was 10 o'clock at night or something. And there's a whole other story behind that. And Silvana cooked extra chicken schnitzel that night. I said, what's the extra chicken schnitzel for? She said, it's for the man delivering the kitchen. I said, what do you mean? She said, just give him the food, will you? Like, the man has been in contact with me by the hour, the whole day, to let me know, look, I'm stuck over here, I'm over there, I'm still making my way, I'm promising I'm delivering these units today. They have to be there today because the guys were putting them in and coming next morning, and that has a ripple effect on all the rest of the jobs if it doesn't get done. So, and she cooked this extra chicken schnitzel. She wrapped it up in aluminium foil so it stayed warm. Now, in Italian we call that cotoletta. It's a beautiful chicken, like it's the best chicken schnitzel, like, you know. And it was wrapped up in aluminium foil to keep it warm. And I said, and she gave it to me. So I'm holding this thing with aluminium foil. So I'm waiting outside the front of the house. Now, outside the front of our old house in Melbourne, all there was one street light and everything else was dark. And the guy arrives. There it is, 10 o'clock at night. And he backs up the truck, he gets out, and I approach with this aluminium foil thing in my hands. Right? And I said to Silvana, I said, love, I might not make it home tonight. She goes, what do you mean? I said, you're asking me to meet a guy that's opening the back of a truck in the middle of the night under a street light and me handing over a aluminium foil package. And there's a police station just down the road. And they go up and down all the time, and they might just see this and be curious about what is it that these people are exchanging at 10 o'clock at night under this street light. She goes, just give him the chicken, she said. Just give him the chicken. Huh?
It's a different C word.
It's a different C word. Oh, well, I don't know what to do with that. Chicken. Thank God for that. I thought, this is an interesting audience. We're going down a different path. Didn't expect that. So the guy gets out, right? And this is all about courtesy. Stranger. He comes out and he's looking at me. He says, oh, sorry, bud, I really appreciate you helping. You're hanging out here and all this. And his partner gets out of the truck as well. And they're just looking at me, but they're looking at this thing in my hands. Like, just, yeah. I said, oh. My wife cooked extra cotoletta. And I thought, just a chicken schnitzel. And she asked me to give it to you to have for dinner because she thought you might be hungry. And the guy just looked at me like, really? I said, yeah, she's a great cook and she just cooked extra. We had this for dinner tonight and we were just hanging around waiting for you. And he goes, wow. And then he sort of gave it to his friend and they were starting to sort of munch on it, like they were really hungry. And then he said something that to me was a warning. He said to me, mate, I'm ad-libbing here a little bit, but he said something like, I will always give respect to anyone who gives me respect first. Listen to what he just said. I will always respect you if you respect me first. The fact that you've shown me respect, I'm going to respect you. I'm thinking, as I'm putting my human behavioural coaching hat on, going, this fellow does not have healthy relationships. How can you be demanding respect before you give it? It's like Earl Nightingale used to say, most people are sitting in front of empty fireplaces demanding the heat. Give me the heat and then I'll give you the wood. And that's how a lot of people measure courtesy and respect. It's like, well, if they respect me, then I'll respect them. No, if we're courteous everywhere that we go, courtesy is not just saying hello and remembering names and stuff like that. It's part of your character. That means that when you're walking down a supermarket aisle and strangers are walking the other way, that you just acknowledge their existence with a nod or a hello or a good morning or how you going or, you know, nice chicken, I don't know, something. Because it's an attitude. And courtesy is the golden ingredient. Now, there's been people who've come to our house who are total strangers who are oozing in courtesy. They'll take their boots off before they walk into the house. They'll ask, do I need to do this and do that? They'll ask, can I go over here? They'll ask if they can use this or use that. It's just basic courtesy. But we're not there going, oh, if they're respectful to us, then we'll be respectful. We're being courteous to everyone. But there's been other people who have come who don't even say hello. Like we've got this big fly screen on the back of the house that we've had put in, and that's taken a bit of effort. And the guy just nothing. Would you like a coffee? Nothing. Like nothing. Like just pure process. I'm here just to fix this and get out. It's like, wow. So courtesy is the golden ingredient of all great relationships. 3 fundamental questions that you must answer with all clients, team members, people you love, care for, even with my sons as a parent, if you're a parent with sons or daughters, is can you be trusted? Are you committed? So in the context of my sons, can I be trusted? With what? With conversations that they have with me. I remember as a kid, and I love my father, he's still alive, but I believe that all parents are inspirational warnings. Inspirational warnings. There's aspects of them that are warnings and aspects of them that are inspirational. There's lots about my father that's inspirational. There's also aspects of my father that were warnings, such as how he would speak to me sometimes. When I would go to my first ever party as a young teen, feeling the vulnerability and the fear of that, and him saying things to me like, I can't even remember what he said, but it would make me feel really, really crap. It's like, why would you say that to me? Whereas with my sons, can you be trusted? Are you committed as a father in that context? And do you care about me as Nicholas, not just as your son, but do you care about me as Nicholas? Do you care about me as Oliver? That matters so much. So a person might, well, I don't know what kind of business that you're in. Everyone's in different kinds of businesses here. Your relationship with your clients might be years. For some of you, your relationship with your clients might only be, or your customers might only be 4 minutes. But whatever it is, the psychology remains the same. It remains the same. So those 3 questions. Now, the degree to which you can answer, can you be trusted? Are you committed to excellence? Are you committed to your craft? And do you care about me as a person? The degree to which you can give that is reflected in how much you give those 3 questions to yourself. Can I trust myself? Am I committed to my craft? And do I care about myself as a person? Now, I can tell you this, based on life experience blended with professional experience, most children don't make it to adulthood with their self-esteem intact. And then we need, I'll speak for myself, I'll say we, but I'm speaking about myself. We need a couple of decades of living to build it. I don't know about you, but when I started in my business, low self-trust, low self-confidence, the uncertainty was unbearable. I was walking each day afraid that this is the day that it's going to happen. What's going to happen? That I'm going to be found out. That someone's going to ask me, how long have you been doing this for? 4 days. Wow. But I can help you. Sure. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, there was so much uncertainty in that. So, self-trust. Today when we get into this framework that I've been promising you, self-trust is really important. It's normal to have low self-trust. Most people do have low self-trust, which means your clients, your team members, your employees, the people that you relate to, on the balance of probability will have low self-trust and low self-esteem. And as we become emotionally fit, we're able to build that self-trust in them and that self-esteem in them, and that self-confidence and self-belief in them by building it within ourselves. People will only, our teams and people, whether that's a family, whether it's a client base, whether it's a team base, whether it's a community base, and if you're the leader of that community and group of people, they will only energetically, emotionally live at 80% of where you are. So in other words, if I have a very low self-opinion and low self-esteem and lack of self-love, that's going to reflect in how I am with other people. Do you get that? Can anyone here resonate with what I've just said in the last sort of 5 or 10 minutes? Yeah? Can I see some hands? Yeah, thank you. So here's how we build it. Here's how we build it. And if you have got good self-trust and good self-esteem, that's healthy. Healthy. Healthy means, in this context, that you've got clean boundaries. You know what to say yes to and what to say no to. We're going to talk about boundaries this afternoon or in the next session because that's really, really important when it comes to building this self-trust and self-esteem in others as well as in self. So to do this, to begin the practical part of what I want to share with you here today, I want to introduce you into a framework that's known as the 6 universal core drivers. Originally, the words that I'm using here come from Tony Robbins, but everything else I'm teaching here is all my own spin, my own take on how I have used these drivers in my life, in my family's life, and in the life of clients and just in life in general. So the first thing we need to understand is that one way that we can build our relationship with uncertainty is that there are two primary drivers that sit at the base of our psychological being, right? And those bases are, I'm going to write from the bottom of the screen here, excuse my back, is that the base driver that we all have is we all have a need for certainty, also known as safety, also known as security, also known as comfort. It's a base need. And the irony is that the secondary driver, there's 6 of them, the secondary driver is paradoxically the opposite. The secondary driver is uncertainty, also known as variety, also known as challenge, also known as adventure. Love it. Now, these two, if you can look at me for a sec, look at me. If that's certainty and that's uncertainty, we are continually, whether we're aware of it or whether we're not, we're continually looking for an osmotic balance between these two. If these are out of balance, you're going to feel emotionally unfit, which means you're not going to be able to handle the uncertainty as well as you need to. So these need to be balanced. So, and I'll talk with you about how to balance them in a second. But if we've got so much uncertainty and very little certainty going on in any particular part of our life, we will begin to sabotage. Think about it. If uncertainty is at all times high in a relationship or in our business or in our finances or something like that, and certainty is really low, chances are that we will perform some kind of self-sabotaging pattern. Who here has ever sabotaged anything? Oh, come on, can you just put your hands all over? We've all sabotaged something. There's lots of ways to explain sabotage. This is one of them. And so sometimes what happens is uncertainty is so high that we sabotage. It's like this. It's like, I remember when I first started my own business, I remember the thought of going to my first ever networking event was scaring the proverbial out of me. Just totally frightened. And I remember it took me 5.5 hours to clean my desk that day. And the reason is by cleaning my desk for 5.5 hours, guess what I'm trying to do? I wasn't aware of this. I was regaining my balance because cleaning the desk gives me comfort, gives me safety, it gives me predictability, it gives me familiarity. So now I'm rebalancing my needs. But the problem is I'm doing it unresourcefully. So write this down. If any of these needs are met unresourcefully, it's unsustainable. It's unsustainable. If they're met unresourcefully, it's unsustainable. So we need to find resourceful ways to meet our needs. I'll talk about resourceful ways in a moment. Then you've also got the opposite, guys, the opposite unbalance, where you've got certainty overload and very little uncertainty. Very little. So sorry, I said sabotage. The other way was actually procrastination. Just backtrack for a sec. By cleaning my desk for 5.5, 6 hours, I'm procrastinating. Because procrastination is an unresourceful way to connect to certainty so I can balance up these needs again. Is that making sense? Can I have a proper yes? Yeah. So in the other way around, if I've got certainty overload, where everything is predictable and everything is known and everything's whatever, and the uncertainty is really low, there's a low sense of adventure, variety, etc., that's when we'll sabotage. Because we'll throw a spanner in the works just to see what happens. And that throws the uncertainty up in the air again. And it just temporarily balances it again. But because it's unresourceful, it can't be sustained. Is that making sense? Yes? So what we need to do is we need to find resourceful ways of meeting our base need for certainty so we can handle more of the unknown. We need to find ways of rebalancing this. So the way that I highly recommend, and this is how I've done it in my life, is that it's so important, and I think this is underrated, and it should be overrated, should be rated higher, is the importance of having a hobby in your life that genuinely sings to your soul, that you do for yourself and nobody else. a hobby that's independent of everything else in your life. So when I started my own practice here in coaching in 2006, everything was uncertain. I was doing all these things I had never done before, going to networking events, doing the actual skill set, talking to people, doing group talks. My God, I mean, choosing this to do this for a living, and there had to be a first time to do this. I remember my third time. I remember it was in Doncaster East in Melbourne, and it was with these underground accountants. Are there any accountants in the room before I say some stuff? All right. This is only accountants that are not in this room. But they invited me to this talk, to do this talk for 20 minutes at their networking group thing, and it was underground, under this building. And I walked in and no one even looked at me. No one even acknowledged my existence. I thought, oh, maybe I'm in the wrong room. Then I started to walk out thinking I'm in the wrong space. I'll go and find where they are. And this fellow called out to me, goes, oh, you Joe? I said, yeah. I thought, oh God, it's this room. And it's like, yeah, whenever you want to start. I said, well, like right now? And they're all just talking, like with their backs toward me, having tea, coffee and stuff. And it's like, you want me to start talking now? He says, yeah, go for it. I said, are you going to introduce me? Well, no, we knew that you were coming. So, okay. And I started talking. And it was really ordinary. And it lasted 20 minutes. And I left. And I'm driving down Doncaster Freeway on the way back to Moonee Ponds in Melbourne, and all these thoughts are going through my mind. Like, maybe you're not made for this. What were you thinking? Really? This is what you want to do for a living? Those dickheads, they had personality bypasses. Yeah. All these things were going through my head, all these thoughts. And the headline was, just go and get a job. That was it. And so when we're beginning something new, we get challenged. And the uncertainty was really high. But guess what I had to look forward to the next day? My favourite hobby in the world, which is running. I love running. So twice a week I have a running group that I go to. So the next morning I had my running group to look forward to. So I could tune in whilst I'm driving down that freeway with all these fearful thoughts. I could tune into Running Group FM. Do you get that? And it would bring me joy. It would bring me, And guess what else it gives you? It gives you hope. Not hope as in I'm hoping things work out. No, hope as in having something to look forward to. In the space of uncertainty and self-doubt and lack of self-trust and these kinds of things, you've got to have something to look forward to. Just turn to your neighbour and say something really weird like this. Turn to your neighbour and say, I'm looking forward to you. Just say that. It doesn't make any sense, but... So the running is a hobby. And it's a hobby which has comfort, safety, security, certainty. It feels good. It's something that I know. So that was something that I could think about and put my energy toward for the next morning. And that suddenly made me feel better. And then it would start to rebalance this unbalance of uncertainty. So coming back from that talk that night, and I won't even tell you about the Ray White real estate in the Greeks over in where the Greek Oakley. Are they here? Are you here? Are you them? Oh my God. Are there any real estate agents in the room? Yeah. Well, I remember in 2006 being invited to the Ray White office there, and it was just a similar experience. I joined their meeting. Have you ever walked into a room where you can cut the air with a knife because something has just happened? Like someone has yelled at someone or something has just happened. I walked into that room, something had happened. And then they were in the middle of their conversation. I just sat at the table, and then they said, and this is Joe, and Joe's come here to, Joe, what are you here to talk about? It's like, I'm here to talk about human behaviour and stuff. Like I didn't have any proper language. And it was the same thing. I was having all these experiential hits when I first started. It was almost like saying, are you sure this is what you want to do for a living? You sure? So the uncertainty was high. You have to have a hobby, because a hobby rebalances the energy of the certainty and uncertainty. Because when it rebalances and you've got certainty as a base, you can handle more of the unknown. And so your hobby has to be something ideally that you can do, if you can, 3 times a week. So I do running 5 times a week. But the hobby has to be something that suits your style. So whether you're musical, a musical hobby, a creative hobby, a magical hobby, a philosophical hobby, an intellectual hobby, a physical hobby, a spiritual hobby, something that genuinely makes you feel good at the thought of. And it has to be independent of your business and independent of your relationships. It's for you. Because when you're doing that consistently, guess what happens? Your self-trust builds up. Your self-esteem builds up. Self-love builds up. It's really, really key. And so what I found was that by having something like running, every time I get an uncertainty hit, I'd be turning my mind, because remember, based on what Hawkins' words were there, is that it's a cafeteria of selection, our thoughts. And it's really difficult to accept that when you've come out of a situation that you feel really ordinary about. So the way that you change it is I can't change my experience of the accountants. Well, I could based on the meaning I give it, but it still happened. But coming out of that, where I could think of something that would make me feel good, so you've got to have, I'll say it again, you've got to have something every week, multiple times if possible, that you're looking forward to. I call that micro-hope. There's macro-hope and micro-hope. Micro-hope is having something to look forward to every single week. Macro-hope might be something that, I don't know, it happens annually, I don't know, an overseas trip, or something that you're doing that's special with the family, or whoever you want to be with, and all that kind of stuff. But it's got to be weekly. The other thing that we look forward to, once a week, with the family, well, we have dinner together most nights, is we have pizza night. I love it. We eat clean most nights. Then pizza comes. Nutritionally defunct, just awful. But boy, it's good. And that's once a night. Once a night, yeah. It's every week. You've got to have something to look forward to, because then you've got that meeting, you've got that client conflict that you've got to deal with that day. There's more energy left in you. But if all our life is just full of uncertainty, because we haven't taken care of the certainty base, you're going to fall victim to a long-term version of procrastination. So a hobby is really important. Another way, is that making sense, guys? Who's got a hobby here? Can some of you yell out examples of hobbies? Pilates? Is that what you said? Yep. What else? Diving. Golf. Parking. Hiking. Pardon me. This table is fascinating. All started with you. Love it. Hiking. Huh? Playing ukulele. Love it. As long as it genuinely brings, but you can overdo it. You can overdo the hobby. Where then it takes over your marriage, takes over your family, takes over your business. Oh, he's gone golfing for 17 weeks. Oh. That's when you've gone, that's unresourceful, therefore unsustainable. I remember in 2014, I just come off a running group training session, and there was a group of ladies there who said, "We're going to Berlin." I said, what do you mean you're going to Berlin? "We're doing the Berlin Marathon." I said, "Really? You should come. You would love it." I said, "I think I would." And I'm driving home from that running group after our session. I ring my wife with all this excitement. I said, "Love, guess what?" "What is it, love?" "I'm going to Berlin." She goes, "Really? When are we going?" I said, "No, we, me." She goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "The Berlin Marathon's coming up in 3 or 4 months," whatever it was back then. So, and I want to go and do it. It's an international thing. 1 million people line the course, 40,000 runners. The best in the world are there, and we get to run with them. Well, not really, but, wow. So this is before we get a break, this is another take on certainty and uncertainty, is that if you overdo it, so I went to Berlin for 6 days and then came back. When I was in Berlin after the marathon finished, there was an American fellow who was saying to me, "Oh, Joe, you got to come to Chicago. Chicago is only in 3 weeks' time. While you're out here, you should." I was thinking, Chicago Marathon. I thought, but hold on, if I start doing that, that's now me overdoing it. Does that make sense? So you've got to respect that. This is one thing that is gold when it comes to love relationships, is giving freedom to the other person to do something respectfully in the relationship. Like, my wife would never say to me, "Why don't you get to go to Berlin? I'm stuck at home with," back then the boys were 2, a pair of 2-year-old twin boys. Why? We've never done that together. We've never done that to each other. We've always allowed each other the space to go and explore anything that brings you a sense of healthy adventure, and our version of comfort, because we've both got different versions of what comfort means. It's a continual, but if you take advantage of it, then you're now doing this balance thing unresourcefully, which starts to play out negatively on your relationship with, whether you're talking about, in business or in personal life. So, and I'll give you one more, another way to balance this out resourcefully. You've got to have someone in your life who you can speak with, unedited, unfiltered, judgment-free. You can be yourself completely, say the most inappropriate of things, and this person will hold you, care for you, love you, and be with you. Whether it's a best mate, a girlfriend, a life partner, a son, a daughter, it doesn't really matter who it is as long as it's someone. Because in times of uncertainty, to rebalance these two drivers, we really need someone that we can go to, someone that we can say stuff to unleash, not to them, but just get stuff out. That's really, really, really important. And if you don't have someone like that in your life, the question that privately we can ask ourselves is, who do I need to be to have someone like that in my life? That's really, really, really important. So the more you take care of certainty in a very resourceful way, the more uncertainty you can handle. Doing it resourcefully, the hobby is the most sustainable thing that I can think of that I've used in my life. So running, if it wasn't for running, I don't think I'd be standing here, because all of those uncertainty hits I was taking in my first year or two, the only hope that I could have designed for myself was to go back to what I knew, which was my old job. And something that was motivating me to not go back to that old job was I just didn't want to go back to a traditional job. I wanted to be in my own space and do my own thing. Is that making sense, this whole balance thing? Yep. If this is making sense, can you just give me some hands? Yeah. So if you have got a hobby that you haven't, utilised for a while, my strong recommendation is you bring it back. And a healthy relationship, if you are in a love relationship with someone, a marriage or that kind of relationship, it's really, really important that you give each other the freedom to explore stuff that you need to do for yourself, as long as you're not taking advantage of the relationship. That's really, really, really important.